Okay, so this is a test for the online audience. Can someone please chat back that you can see and hear the meeting?
Sound is good too, she said, actually, Hill said, yeah, okay, you're good.
Thank you. Since you may have missed the introduction to this part, we are on the report section, and it's on Gifted and Talented, which Ms. Laceville is in charge of, but her report actually that was written on that is separate. She's going to discuss what we have to offer as far as child care goes, and we thought we brought her to the table so that the audience could hear.
We have currently been running our child care program since June 15th. We have 3 licensed centers within our school district, and they're licensed through the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. One is at the preschool, one is at the primary school, and one is at the elementary school. Traditionally, what we do in the summertime is run the primary and the elementary school both at the elementary school, and we kind of combine those into one side. Since June 15th, we opened at a very limited capacity. The preschool, we've been serving 20 children there. We do have restrictions on our class size. We have to stay 10 students or under, so that was falls under licensing regulations. So we have done that. We've met all the protocols in place, so it's kind of been a soft opening for these small groups. I think it's been good to see what works well and what we need to improve upon. But we have been serving those 20 students at the preschool. Through 2 classrooms, we've been serving 20 students at the elementary school. We have families, Redhound and Richmond had ran until this past Friday because all of our staff was going back to school. And then originally our start date was supposed to be coming up and teachers need to get their rooms ready. So we've had an interruption in services for about a week at Redhound and Richmond. We would like to start that back this coming Monday with our 20 students, so those families still have somewhere to go and they continue to work. And then expand that to up to 40 students at the elementary side in order to meet the needs of families as we start, because they were planning on those services starting on September 9th, when school was supposed to start back. So we would propose that we would be able to do that with those families, and then at the preschool, be able to start our tuition programs there beginning on September 9th for our tuition preschool programs, which would include our Montessori programs, and students who are paid for traditional preschool as well. I do have the staff to support that in place because we would obviously have to use more classrooms to accommodate students since it's about half our class size. But I've made those arrangements and we are ready to go. I guess with a blessing that families, we've obligated, initially we obligated, of course, we're in a climate of change and things change daily, but we do have 50 students who had planned, that our families had planned on providing that care at the preschool and at least 40 at the elementary school. So that's the plan for child care. I feel like we're equipped to do that as safely as possible. We'll make every effort, for that to happen, and we have been operating since June 15th, actually pretty smoothly. Anybody have any questions? I'll be glad to.
We had a number of discussions about this, and I'm going to just kind of take this opportunity to update the board as well as the folks who are listening. You are under a different governing body than we are here in public schools, but you've done really good job. And I want to compliment Kim. Her changes have been about as fast and furious as ours have been. She's been able to continue to start to hear much also a little bit faster.
And that single one is not going away anytime soon, so you're already prepared for that.
No, I think you see that at the preschool, because we have essentially 2 governing bodies at the preschool. We have our child care license, which is under the Cabinet for Family Services, and then we have programs that are operated under KDE. And there's 2 sets of guidelines for each program. Generally, I will say most of the time the child care regulations are more stringent than the KDE regulations, but sometimes on a particular issue, it'll flip-flop. But we're not able, of course, to start the KDE programs. We follow the protocol that's set by our school district. That's the advice that we're getting from from the preschool department at KDE is that preschool follows the lead of their school district and what the school decides for in-person. So those programs would be suspended until the board decided to go forward with in-person. They would start then, but the others are allowable under the cabinet. So that does get a little confusing for parents, but that's why there's a difference.
And the last comment I would make is that if folks are interested in the services you described, they can just go to preschool and you can walk them through the process and what's available in more detail.
Yes.
Thank you.
I believe we have Mr. Greer, Mr. Coach Greer, up next, with the KSSAA update, because they did have their meeting today at 10:30.
Yes, they did. So the board of controls, they met today, went over the plans for, I guess, the fall sports, not just football, but for all the fall sports. They met to go have option 1, option 2, and option 3 that they were going to vote on. Option 2 did not pass. Option 3 did not pass. Both of those options was to move the season back 3 weeks. The option that they did vote on, and it voted 16-2, was option 1. And option 1 has been in place for some time, that they had to set out there that August 24th would actually be in-season start date, which is this coming Monday. So that did pass, and really with option 1, your high-touch sports, football, soccer, and volleyball, basically we get to start practice on Monday. For football, we get to start in headgear. We've been 50 or less in groups of 10. Now we can bring all the players in. We've got about 83, 84 football players. So as of right now, we're good to go. For football, it's a 5-3-3. So we got to go 5 days with headgear, which is 1 week. Then we go 3 days to have shoulder pads, and then we go into full pads after that. And our first competition for football is September the 11th. Volleyball also, their season can start September the 7th through the 11th, and same way with soccer. The number of games for football is 9 games. Soccer will get to play 14 games. Volleyball gets 24 games. Postseason will start for football on November the 13th. Soccer starts October the 12th. Volleyball will start the same as October the 12th, and they get 24 games. Some of the guidelines in that option: football, we can dress 50 players. 60 players only. We can dress 60 players. Our sidelines are from 25 to 25. They've extended that to 10, from 10 to 10. So with soccer, they can dress 24 players. And then with cross country, they can dress 10 players. So that's really the option 1. Players that's not in the game for any of the sports, they've got to have a mask on. They basically have widened the sidelines for all the sports that coaches now have to be in the players' box to give officials more spacing. But option 1's been voted in by the Board of Controls. Now that voting, that what passed the Board of Control goes to the governor and to the health department director, whoever for the health department, and they got to put their stamp of approval along with KDE. If they all 3 approve that schedule, then all their sports will kick up on Monday.
Yeah, do they have a time frame where they have to say, okay, we give your blessings, go ahead, or can they just win anytime next week, or what? Yeah.
Julian Tackett, the commissioner, during this Zoom meeting, he said that that you may get a text or email Friday at midnight. He said, as soon as I hear from the governor, I'll let you know whether it's passed or whether they put a stop to the option 1 on the Board of Controls voting.
But with Monday being the tentative date, you can start the 24th, and it's going to be a quick turnaround as far as our decision-making process. process?
They'll have to move pretty quick, and I'm sure that Mr. Tackett has got that to the governor and those folks, and I got a feeling that tomorrow they'll make a ruling on that.
Tom, you may or may not know this. I watched with you, but then I had to leave for another meeting at the end. Is this an all or nothing proposal? In other words, could the governor handpick certain sports, the low contact sports, to perhaps go forward, and high contact sports to possibly wait a little longer? Or is this a kind of a across the board approval? Or do you know?
I think that he is really concerned about what they call high touch sports, football, volleyball, and soccer. As you know, our golf team has already played matches, 4 or 5 matches already. Volleyball scheduled to get started here next week. So it could be just those high risk programs that he may buff it, freeze it, or kick it back for a couple of weeks. The Board of Controls in that meeting, they said we may have to come back together, or we may have to do another plan. But here's the thing we voted on today, and we just kind of have the mercy of the governor.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Normally, the next item in our agenda is open comments, but since I know the majority of the people on the telephone are waiting for the discussion about school opening, I'm actually going to hold the open comments to give you time to send things in on chat at that point, and we will do our best to address everyone's concerns with what we know, which is this changes every day. That's what we know. So we will move on then to the minutes and financial management portion. We need a motion approving the minutes from the July 20 and August 3rd, 2020 meetings, and that we received information on these financial management items taken by the superintendent.
Make a motion. Second.
So I have a motion by Keith and a second by Todd. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Next is the personnel section. We did a motion saying that we received information about these personnel actions taken by the superintendent.
Second.
Motion by Carseal and a second by Todd. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. That brings us to our operation items. There are 22 items. You want to take a glance through those to see if there's any we need to discuss separately.
Mr. Cox, usually this time of year we entertain the possibility of authorizing you to hire more teachers if we need those. I know this is going to every year, but
We did that on a prior meeting.
so good.
Yes, we you did 3, and haven't used any of those yet. There's still I appreciate you remembering that.
Well, I couldn't remember if we did it.
I'm always happy to hire more folks. Yeah, we've not used any of those yet. Well, as I say that, we used a little bit of one person in some teacher trainings at the high school, and maybe a 0 out of class for 2. That's not even a full person that we've used. I don't anticipate having to too many kids in 6. Get there.
Those are 21 bus monitor positions. That's when we end up going in first.
Well, maybe not. But these are 2 that I was going to talk about here in just a minute, but I can say it now. We received some information on. Actually, I received it Monday afternoon because I got a bootleg copy of a session I really wasn't supposed to give, but I'd heard about the possibility of being able to get some more kids in the building, maybe up to 9 with the teacher. They really released it on Tuesday, and we all kind of viewed that. And with that, we're going to we're going to certainly take advantage of the opportunity to bring those kids in. And the principals are working on those targeted groups right now. But we wanted to provide bus transportation for those kids as well. So these two positions would be for the buses to bring those small target groups in. And they're only in 2-hour sessions. So a bus would have to come, drop a group off, and come back. And so we could probably do it with 2 buses or 2 to 3. But we have some bus monitoring. We're just going to hire a couple extra. I'll be honest, we're looking at a way to put a bus monitor on every bus. We're 11 short, Rhonda. 11 short of having 11 or so short of having enough on every bus. We met with Josh Danielson this week, but these two that were reason that number because these were to help transport the smart group kids.
I was thinking we probably need monitoring every bus.
We have for a long time, honestly, but with keeping masks on and keeping kids from doing what kids do, especially at the end of the day, they're tired and it's hot. We really get on every bus, and we've got some options right now that we're looking at to try and get that done.
If there's no additional comments, I'd make a motion to approve operation items 1 through 22 as listed.
So we have a motion by Todd and a second by Kenny to approve the operation items numbers 1 through 22. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next is the discussion items. The first is the additional emergency days that have been approved for COVID, which is in addition to our normal emergency day policy.
And Rhonda and I have worked on this week, and the short answer is this: there's 2 pools, and Rhonda, feel free to jump in. You will not hurt my feelings at all. There's 2 pools in emergency days. There's the 80 hours, which is basically 10 working days that have been approved by the federal government. All folks will have access to those should the need arise. We will utilize those first. And then in addition to that, all of our employees get 3 emergency days anyway, and those days have very specific reasons that you can use them: bereavement, natural disaster, or court appearance. What they've done is they, through this regulation, they've allowed us to add COVID issues to that list. But what they've not done is they've not added a specific number of those. So what I would ask you to do, the board to consider tonight, would be to allow the superintendent to base that number of emergency days that we would grant after using the federal days. Allow me to make that discretion based on the specificity of the case or the severity of the case. An example could be if an employee got sick and had to go in a hospital and had an extended stay, they would certainly need more days than somebody who just quarantined for 10 days. And it's hard to put that into a quantitative motion. So I would just ask for you to allow me to make that, to have that discretion, and certainly I would share that with you. And if it got to be an exorbitant number with the same person, then we would certainly discuss that as well. But Ron and I discussing that seemed to be the best way to handle it. And I'm glad that folks need to have that opportunity, because we've been very strict going all the way back to Mr. McNeil about how we handle those emergency days. Sometimes we get 15 or 20 requests every year to use them outside of those parameters, and we just don't give in on those. So I'm really glad that they have given us this opportunity. So that's what I would ask the board to do, and I would love to do the motion if you choose to.
Just one question about that. Did you ever find out about their 6 days?
I did find out. Thank you. I did find out about the sick days, and we do not. They do not have to use their sick days or use their sick days out prior to getting these. This would be in addition to. And after I thought about that, it makes sense. Ron and I talked about this a few minutes ago, and I remember we talked about it earlier too, because that was one of my first questions. If God forbid a person came to school and got sick, you would not want them to have to exhaust the sick days that they have saved up over a number of years because of that. So you would want to add these in addition to. So they do not have to by regulation. So I would not ask them to do that either.
I'll make a recommendation that we do that.
So Keith, can you second the motion that she made for your recommendation? That works for me.
Yeah, I can do that.
So we have a motion then that allows the superintendent to use his discretion as to the number of days an employee can use based on the severity and length of their illness. And we have a second being by Keith. For any other discussion?
And just so you know, sorry to be interested. We will verify it. There's nothing not mind us.
Stephen, did you have? All those in favor then, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next is the architect and construction manager for our career center.
We had, we advertised for architects, letter of interest from students from architects and construction managers. We received, I think, 5 or 6, and we reviewed those. Ron and I looked those over. Cindy and I looked them over as well. And there were some strong applicants, but honestly, in all sincerity, I would be very uncomfortable in going outside of the folks that we've been using for a number of years. Hacker Brothers as construction manager, Sherman Carter Barnhart as the architect. We've had a great run with them. As a matter of fact, without going into great detail, there have been some things on the old middle school, which is the new elementary school, that we've had to go back and sort of have gentlemen's agreements on that they have, that Sherman Carter and Hacker Brothers have both stepped up and really they didn't have to. Done right by us, and I think they've done right by us the entire time that I've been here. We've done, I think, $43 million worth of stuff with them, work with them since I've been superintendent, and I'm very pleased with them and very comfortable in recommending those to be the two folks that the two entities that we go forward with. In addition to that, and Ms. Crowe pointed out to me in the conversation we had over the week, both of those folks have been very supportive of this whole career center movement from the get-go. And as a matter of fact, David Jackson takes a lot of his time on his own and traveled twice for us to go see Senator Stivers to try to generate money for this project. So I would feel really good about it with this project with those two entities.
I move that we approve the architect, Sherman Carter Barnhart, construction manager, Hacker Brothers, for the CHS Career Center as recommended by you.
So a motion and a second by Garfield to select Sherman Carter Barnhart as the architect and Hacker Brothers as the construction manager. Is there any questions for you? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is the approval of the auction company for the Early Street project.
The Early Street property, just by way of a quick review, is the little house down behind the high school on Early Street that we use for foreign exchange teachers for a good bit. Those folks have been gone for many years, and we rented it out. We've sort of been in the rental business for a while. It's starting to need a few repairs. We're having to spend a lot of time there. Our original thought was we were going to tear it down and possibly use it because it does butt up with the property behind the technology building. When we went down there and looked at that, it's not big enough for us to really do anything with, so we decided to sell it. And what really kind of made my interest peak a bit with that was there's a couple of houses that have sold on that street. When I started talking to one of the auctioneers in town, there's a couple of houses that sold on that street that brought back a pretty good amount of money. So I thought, for our purposes, I think we'd be much better served to sell it rather than tear it down. You folks have already approved for me to do that. What I need tonight is an approval to use the auction company of Hill and Hill. Those are the same folks that we use to sell the two buildings, the middle school or the old elementary school and the old intermediate. Thank you. And they helped us sell those. And they did a really good job, and I think everybody was very pleased with the job they did there. And So that would be my recommendations for this.
Make a motion, get into the. Second.
So a motion by Keith, second by Todd, to approve Hill and Hill Auction Company for the Early Street property auction. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, then please say aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
And so discussion item number 4, school.
Well, again, much thought, much gnashing of teeth, a lot of changing rules, and a lot of changing guidelines and suggestions and recommendations. Not a lot of mandates, but a lot of suggestions that have gone into this whole process. And let me before I tell you what I think, let me tell you what I know. What I know is that this board and our staff, and our teachers, and our administrators, everybody in our school system want nothing more than kids to be back in school by the teachers. That's the best way to educate folks. We know that, and not to sound boastful, our teachers have done a great job of that for many years, and we know that. But the reality is what it is right now. And so what I'm going to do is tonight I'd like to propose a hearing to the governor's recommendation to forego in-person classes until September 25th. For us, there are several reasons for that, and I feel like I owe it to the community and you all to explain to you why I'm making that recommendation. First of all, for us in the later start date that you already approved of September 9th, it's only 12 and a half instructional days until that 25th date. We're going to get a chance to see what happens when other schools open up. We're going to get a chance to streamline our virtual process, which we feel very comfortable with right now. Casey's with us tonight. We had some good conversation even before this meeting. Great progress is being made on that front. But with only 12 and a half days before the September 25th date that the governor's going to give a new recommendation, I think that certainly factored into my decision to ask you to do this tonight or to suggest this. Also, with all the effort that we put towards our live streaming initiative, coupled with the fact that we're providing Chromebooks for every student grades 3 through 5, it makes those 12 and a half days doable. I think it's not as if we're going to be taking days off. I think that instruction, and everybody in our organization feels like it's going to be much stronger than it was last year. We're still going to have things to improve on. We're still going to have to do things better. But it's going to be immensely more effective than it was last year. And that certainly played into my decision as well. There's a couple of updates we've gotten on our technology infrastructure that I think are playing in this decision as well. We had a vendor audit. In case you feel free to jump in anytime they came in. They looked at our infrastructure. They looked at our trunk line from KDE, and we asked them, can we do this? Can we streamline 180 teachers at the same time, with kids on Chromebooks and technology labs going at the same time? And I don't want to speak for you, Casey, but you can give us a quick synopsis.
Integration partners sit down as a network engineer, and they spend 4 days with us on here going through all of our switches, our access points, our servers, everything with a fine-tooth comb. They did all of the upgrades that were necessary. They upgraded all of our hardwares. After he left, he sent back a report saying that he feels confident that we can sustain the wired network for live streaming, which means they feel very confident that we can do the live streaming in the classrooms with the teachers. The only concern he had was if we have that plus, all of our one-to-one Chromebooks in the district at the same time, the wireless might not keep up with that much. But as far as teacher streaming, and even if we had half the students in our Chromebooks, they feel very confident that we're in a really good place with that. And our tests show that as well when we did it.
Yeah, you said, I didn't interrupt, you sent me some graphs that 65% capacity was all we reached when we had all 180 teachers on.
I watched the graphs the whole time during our test, and we never peaked. And that was with every teacher machine going in all of our computer labs playing music. So we never peaked. So that was really great. So they feel confident. They made a couple of recommendations about outdoor Wi-Fi, and a couple of recommendations about upgrading our core switch in the next 1 to 2 years, but really nothing that was critical that had to be done right then.
You know, and it spoke volumes to me, because I'll be honest, I don't know integration partners, but when you ask folks to come in and assess what you've got and let you know if you need to buy anything new, and they tell you probably not, you're probably in pretty good shape. So I felt really comfortable, and when I was really dreading that email back, because I just knew we were going to get a lot of suggestions for some very expensive equipment, but we did not get that. And you told me before they even came down that we were going to have to beef up our outdoor access points, and that's going to be used for folks students who want to come into the parking lots and download the work from their student accounts. So that's another reason that that I feel like this is very difficult, especially for that short time. And then lastly, I alluded to it a few minutes ago, Ms. Burchett, KDE, we received some information from the Kentucky Department of Education just on this week on Tuesday afternoon that will allow us to bring in groups of 9 or less students with teachers for targeted services. Those targeted services are kids coming in to do hands-on things. For example, our biomed kids may need to come in and do experiments or lab work. It could be remediation. It could be that we're on virtual for a few days. And the example they gave, you're on virtual for a few days and you notice that several of your kids are behind missing content last year, which who wouldn't have? Then you can bring those kids. You can bring those kids in groups of 9 up to 15% capacity of your building. And so we immediately got that information. Cindy and I poured through it, made sure we were understanding it the way we needed to, and we got our principals, and they're putting those target groups together right now. It could be special needs kids, or it could be AP kids, or really anything in between for kids who need remediation. There are a couple stipulations, only 2 hours in length, and those it cannot be core instruction. In other words, you cannot substitute what you're doing in those 2-hour segments for classes, because that has to be done from the virtual standpoint so that all kids are getting the same instruction. But we were very excited about that, and I think to me it took the sting, if you will, out of not starting with kids on the very first day, because we really wanted to do that. We've done all this work all summer long, and not to pour them out, but we were excited about starting, and then it was kind of like the air was taken out of the room. But for 12 and a half days, I think we've got a great plan. I think we've got an opportunity to streamline our process, and in reality, it could help us down the road should this thing go in a direction we don't want it to, or if we ever get snow, it's going to help us. It's going to help us with our NTI days as well. Of course, you got to do proper sanitizing, all the healthy school guidelines. But for those reasons, I'm going to recommend that we adhere to the governor's recommendation. And unless the board has a conflicting motion, I would like to move forward with that process to begin school on the 9th, knowing that we'll be reviewing things again on the 25th to see where we're at, and we're certainly not locked into anything beyond that day.
In previous board meetings and in our documentation, I think the board has given you all the tools to do what you need to do, and we've only requested that you do it safely, return the kids in person safely. So I appreciate all the work the staff and you have put into that. I would only ask, do you need any more tools from us? Is there anything that we haven't approved that you, now that you've looked into it even more in depth, that we need to add to those tools?
Not at this point. I was prepared to ask for a big check to pay the integration partner folks, because I thought we were going to have to do some major upgrades. But Casey's done a good job in keeping our system updated. And Rhonda's done a really good job of managing the CARES money. She and Cindy have lorded over that very well, and we've got a decent little pool of money left. We just need this thing to go away so we can get back in school. But the reality of it is that we're in better shape now than I think that I would be, if I would have been again 3 months ago. So I'm comfortable with going forward. Again, just 12 and a half days that we had started back a month ago or even 2 weeks ago, that may have changed my thoughts on it. But I think the time period we're talking about and what we've got in place now, I feel very comfortable with it right now. But I'm sure we'll need something before we get to the end of this. But as of right now, we're in really good shape.
I think the flyer that you sent out, or brochure, or whatever you want to call it, was very good, because what it did, it allows parents to understand the impacts of not going along with the governor or, KDE.
It's a mandate failed as a recommendation, and everybody sees it that way. And not that we are going to base our decision on what other folks do, but I wanted to know what our cohorts are doing. Everybody around us, as of today, and I'm sure that everybody around us is doing the same thing, for the same reasons, basically. And we have gotten, not unless this is not a competition, we have gotten maybe in a little better place than some of the folks just because of the fact that we started later. And we're going to get to see what happens when these folks come back in, but it's also going to give us a chance to get our live streaming in a place that should be really effective, hopefully by the 9th. And then I think the icing on the cake is being able to bring some kids in. We didn't think we were going to be able to have some in-person kids, and actually we're going to start that a week prior to our September 9th date. We're going to the week of August 31st. Cindy and I talked today, and we talked to principals. The principal was going to say we're going to go ahead and start getting those targeted groups in. So, and they have been doing the virtual boot camps that we talked about. So, that, being able to augment that with some in person is going to be nice. And we're not going to wait till the 9th to get that started. And just so you know, we'll have to pay those teachers' contract days start on the 9th, so we'll be paying them CARES money, and which you approved last time at an hourly rate.
So, I can't see the chat on the screen that we have in the boardroom. If there are any questions, you need to put them on the chat so that they can give the questions to the board members. I'm giving you that opportunity before we do the vote, because once we do the voting, although technically I don't know that we have to vote. We've already given our superintendent and the staff here the opportunity to do the things they need to do to return our students to in-person learning in a safe manner. We spent, all of us, and especially the superintendent and the assistant superintendent and all the faculty, spent an inordinate amount of hours trying to make this as safe as possible. And I do not disagree that we had an excellent plan, because we did. But when they intimate that you cannot have liability insurance if you do not do what the governor says, if you have insurance on your home, you understand that part of that insurance is if somebody falls down your stairs on the front porch, you have coverage. And that liability insurance is not just if someone were to become ill with the coronavirus. That liability insurance covers us if someone is hurt on our stairs. And so that is an intimation that you cannot ignore. So this is your opportunity if anyone has anything they would like for us to hear or technically read.
You have a question on the live chat where it's broadcasting from Alan Bennell. My question is, what would have to change within the 12 extra days to allow in-person education to take place?
I'm giving you a personal opinion. The personal opinion is that people in the community will have to follow healthy at work, healthy at home guidelines to do the things that the persons in the scientific medical community have told us are positives, to reduce the number of new positive cases. I think once that happens, I think we will be allowed to return to in-person learning in some capacity. I believe that. But again, that is my personal opinion. I think we see already that there are age groups for whom that has not been an easy task. If you look at our colleges that have opened across the United States so far, some of them have not done a very good job. Some of them are doing a good job. So we can learn from both of the things that have not gone well and the things that have. And that's what the extra 9.5 days will provide us. The same view for K-12 education, what went well and what needs work on.
There's a follow-up. What is that number of positive cases?
I cannot answer that because I am not Dr. Stack or someone who works for the CDC. But I think if you listen to what is said in their news conferences, what is written in the press from the CDC, that they are not looking for number of cases, but for a reduction, a trending reduction day to day, that things are normalizing and decreasing, and we have not had that yet.
I think from my standpoint, and it may just, it's just my recommendation, but I've spoken with Alan, and certainly he's a respected friend of mine, but for me, and this may be too simplistic, but I think that the folks who do this for a living, the medical people, the science people, are going to have to tell us, at least in some terms, that we're in good shape to go. I thought it was a good movement today with KHSAA and the things that Tom shared with us, that they're going to allow those folks to go forward. And I fully expect us to have, and I thought it was also a very good movement in the direction we all want to go in, by allowing us to get 9 students into the classroom and 15% capacity. At 15% capacity, we can get 158 kids in our high school. And that's far better than what we were told this time a week ago. So 12 days can make a lot of difference. And so for me, I'm looking for any little thing to be positive. And I'm hoping that the governor and Dr. Stack and the folks that we have to rely on for that information will look for those very same things. And I have to be confident that they will. But again, that's just from my personal opinion. It changes daily, but it does seem to me, and maybe it's just because of what happened today with KHSAA and the fact that we got good news on Tuesday, it does seem to me the momentum may be swinging that direction. I'm very hopeful in 12 and a half days that we'll be having a much different outlook towards this.
Anything else from me?
No other questions.
One thing I would add to your comment, and I would second all the hard work and that everybody's been in, but our principals they're not only folks that I work with and my colleagues, but they're also my friends in large part. I had never seen them as stressed as they were the other day. We left out of here, and those folks, they're on about the 4th iteration of schedules. So I wanted to mention them. I know they're watching, but I wanted to mention how much we appreciate what they do as well. They have to work with the teachers, but they also have to, they're kind of caught in the middle, and they get it from both ends. And the other day, it was a rather tense meeting for a few minutes, but they came through like champions, and I was so proud that they came back before we even made any kind of a mandate about getting kids in the buildings, and sent us notes saying, well, we've got target groups already ready to go. I thought that was really good on their part, and I'm certainly very appreciative of the work that they do. They're showing me the love of this club, at least from my standpoint, so I appreciate that.
One thing about these circumstances that I think you're trending into a very good point, and that is, it's only 12 days, and we're going to have a trial run during those 12 days. If we were starting back and immediately had kids in person and we were trying to stream and do all that at the same time, we could do it, I think. We've got good plans in place. But we kind of have a practice run now for 12 days. We're going to have some kids in person. We're going to have streaming going on immediately. So 12 days is a nice time to do a trial.
I would agree, and that's a very good point. I'm also, thanking the folks that have got us to this point, and even though we're not where we want to be just yet, I'm appreciative of the fact that the board approved and the principals also in the play for 3 options. I've talked to a lot of people around southeastern Kentucky. I don't know of anybody else, and maybe or Cindy does. I don't know of anybody else that the school districts are offering 3 options to folks, and I'm thankful that we had that. And I've had many parents stop me and say, and even call and say thank you for giving us a chance to do one or the other or something in between. I think that's a nice gesture. We just want to get to that point. And I will say this, then I'm done. This will be my superintendent on this. Nobody wants to get back into school more than this board or myself and my staff. We have aimed for that the entire summer. And so we're going to do whatever we need to do to make that happen as best as we can. We do have folks that we have to answer to, just like everybody does, but it is our goal, and we will get back. And I'm certain that is everybody's, teachers, every staff person that I deal with, wants nothing more than to be back in school, kids in the building.
Mr. Chairperson, I don't know that we need a
I don't think we
motion. I don't, we just already given the superintendent discretion to make the decision on how to get the kids back in school safely. He doesn't think we can do that to the full extent he would like to at this point. It's up to him.
So I guess really all that we're asking is that we now send that information out to our parents, especially about the targeted groups that we will be able to do, and that there will be bus transportation available for those students who might need it. And I know from my view, I've had a lot of people already calling and asking about will food service start on September 9th, and so that can be included in that information to parents.
We'll do that.
I think there's some small groups, meetings going on with main groups and that kind of thing with parents. And I think those are really important. I appreciate the principals doing that. I'm sure some people don't understand until they actually hear it directly, exactly what all we're offering and how it's going to work. So
I think there's been a lot of work done by the EPL team and Cindy's tech team as far as getting some tutorials out there for parents and students to learn how to do the virtual or to use a Google Classroom and Google Meet when we do start virtual. So we're in a decent shape there, and we know it's not going to be perfect. And I told our staff the other day, we met with a group of teachers the other day, representatives from each school, and I told them, I said, we know we're not going to achieve perfection. That's what we're seeking. We're going to try to be as good as we can get. But we're not going to get down and make a mistake because we are going to have mistakes. We're fixing them and move on. And we've done that a number of times this summer, and I'm very well aware, painfully aware, that you can't make everybody happy. You can't please everyone. But at some point in time, the decision has to be made, and you've got to go forward and do what you think is right and do the very best thing. And I think that we've done that at this point. We can reconsider maybe as time goes on. So appreciate Casey giving us that good information. That was a nice little boost for the meeting tonight. The tech folks. So very hopeful that's going to work out well.
And did you have any other comments?
Coming to that. Thank you so much.
So I do believe we have need of an executive session. And for those people who are on the call, we want to thank you for being involved and concerned about how your students' year is going to start. And just know that we rely on parents that are involved like you to help us do our jobs. So it's very important that you support your schools and that when called upon that you help them, because this is a team effort that will take every one of us to have our students have a successful school year. For the executive session, you are not allowed to watch that portion. I will tell you that one of the things will be on potential pending litigation, and there will be no action taken on that at the end of the meeting. The other part of the executive session, we're going to finish the superintendent evaluation. There will be a report from that, and that report is actually required by law to be posted on our website. So you will see the results of that action on the website probably in a week or so. I will tell you that he has done a yeoman's amount of work, and we recognize that fact, and you will see that in the report. So if there are no other questions on the chat, for your purposes, the meeting will be adjourned because we will have nothing else really to tell you. And I don't know what time we'll do. By law, I have to say that we are going into executive session based on KRS 61.810, Section 1, Subsection B, acquisition or sale of real property, C, proposed or pending litigation, and or F, personnel issues, or K, evaluation superintendent. At this time, we will be discussing pending litigation and finishing the evaluation system.
I'll just write that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
So motion by Todd, second by Keith to go into executive session for the reasons stated. Thank you.
very good because it let people know.
Just say, Stephen, can you hear me?
And she was.
Mr. Mulberry, can you hear me?
So I had that was a great thing.
Mr. Mulberry?
And I appreciate it.
Whatever, I think it's a good one. We can make this a positive.
Yes.
We choose to look at
It
it.
says we're not live anymore, so I don't,
But it's the strength. that management is in there.
That is fine. I don't, and I hadn't even thought about that.
Okay, at 7:47, we are going to leave executive session and reconvene in the meeting. As we said before, we left for executive session, potential pending litigation was discussed with no action being taken. The evaluation of the superintendent was finished, and this formative assessment is finished and will be put on the school website, the corbinindependent.org, and you can see that probably next week. With no other business to be conducted, we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
So a motion by Keith and a second by Carcel. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. We will now adjourn. Thank you so much.